linking back to our positive affirmations, I'm going to be showing you how you can create an illustration of a gesture that portrays an emotion or meaning. I'm going to create my illustration in pen, but you can choose your favourite material to work in. So I'm starting off with the outline of my hand. You'll see that I'm sketching back and forth continually over the line to create the shape that I want, and I'm copying directly from an image, making sure that I'm looking up at that continually as I go, so that my drawing is accurate. When I'm happy with the shape, I'm just going to thicken up those lines and start adding in some detail. If I think I've made a mistake, I'm just going to work back over the top of it because I'm going to be filling this with tonal line anyway. To start adding tone to my drawing, I'm going to use hatching. Hatching is just another word for line. So I'm testing out a gradient here. The areas that are the lightest are going to have lines that are far apart, and those that are the darkest will have lines which are closest together. And I want to make sure that I've got a range in there to show all the tones in the hand. So I'm starting by finding those darkest areas and building up the lines in there. You'll see that I'm pulling some of these lines a little bit longer so that eventually I can blend those into a gradient with the next level of tone, so there'll be less lines there. I would advise that you choose one direction to create your tone and stick to that throughout the whole hand. I'm left-handed, so I'm dragging it down to the left, but you might want to change that if you're right-handed. And I'm just doing exactly the same thing there along the fingers. So I'm now going to start blending in a lighter tone. You'll see that I'm linking that directly to the darker tones there and just pulling those lines down a little bit further. And whilst you're doing this, you want to make sure that you're continually looking back up at that picture to make sure that the tones that you're depicting are accurate. I'm finally just going to start building up that contrast, so any areas that I think need to look darker, I'm just going to duplicate those lines, so I'm layering them over and over so that they're not only thicker, but they look much darker. So as I'm portraying a message of hope with the fingers crossed, I want to develop that idea further using imagery. Now this should stem from the base of your hand, or if you wanted to do something from the fingertips, that's totally your choice how you create your composition. But I'm just going to elongate those lines along the edges of the hand and some of the tonal lines that I've made as well to develop some illustrative flowers. So these are going to be nice and simple. I'm just focusing on the shape and then adding little bits of tone to create a 3D effect around the base of the flower. So you'll see that I'm continuing to extend those lines from the creases in the hand. I'm choosing a variety of flowers and also making sure that I'm placing them at slightly different heights just to create some dynamics in the piece. The flowers and plants that are further back should be a little bit darker, they should have a shadow on them. So you can see that I've started doing that on some of the flowers, but also with the leaves that I'm adding, I'm just going to make sure that I'm hatching a lot more just to darken up those areas.